Alright, this is the 10-horse Briggs that I've mentioned a couple of times on comments. It's in pretty bad shape. I know it's ugly, and I'm not sure if the torque converter will work on this or not, and it's got an awfully short shaft. But if the torque converter won't work, and I can get this thing running, then I could always put a clutch on it and put it on a go-kart or something like that. But it'd be nice to have 10 horse instead of 6.5 on that ATV. It'll give me more torque, and it'll also allow me to hit higher RPMs, because with the weight of the four-wheeler, you've really got to get moving for a while before it does hit peak RPMs. I don't know, I might be able to pick up some more speed. Anyway, the pull cap is sitting there and it is seized up, so I've got it soaking in oil. I've already hit it with brake clean. Might have to rebuild the spring on it. But this is an overhead valve 10-horse Briggs. I don't like the carburetor, but I've got a different carburetor that I could put on it that's sitting in the truck. I'll see if that fits. But I'd like to tear into this engine and kind of have a good look at it, pull the head and valves and everything, check the piston or the firewall, and see if it's scarred up or anything. And of course strip it down, because I'm not going to use that gas tank. It's got a hole in it for one thing, and take a lot of those extra brackets off and just kind of get it down to the bare minimums, clean the rust off of it, and make sure that everything in it's good and solid, and see if I have to get any parts to fix it. Because if it needs to be honed or anything like that, I'll probably put the Predator back on Frank, the 212 ATV, until I can take my time and do this one. But anyway, let's get to pulling this thing apart and see what it's all about. Pretty simple throttle setup. It just goes through here. Here's the kill switch wire right there. Right there's a kill switch wire, and it's supposed to have a spring to go from here to the governor shaft, which standard issue is not good enough. That governor's coming out. And then the throttle would have hooked up to a slide here and had a pivot here to attach. Now, they said this engine was hooked up and everything and running on the go-kart that I got, which is the Blue Street cart. It's sitting at the house. But Ted said it was hooked up and running, and obviously it wasn't, because the throttle's not hooked up. And there's no way to hook it up right now. But that would be throttle off, throttle on. There's no springs or anything like that for the governor, no linkages for the carburetor, so yeah, it wasn't hooked up. And the guy said it was running, and they parked it because it had a fuel leak in the gas tank, but I don't see a hole anywhere in the gas tank. So I believe that they just threw an engine on it and got rid of it. Anyway, yeah, no big deal. We'll figure out what's going on with it. Exhaust bolts are just straight up welded solid in there with rust, so those are gonna have to soak for a little while. Might actually have to use a Torx tip and tap it in there to get them to break loose. Alright, well, whenever you go to remove these governor arms, loosen up this nut. It's normally a 10mm, and take you a screwdriver and stick it in there, give it a little twist. And this one right here has probably never been off this engine. There ain't no telling how old this engine is. But they generally just pop off like that. You just loosen it up, pry that groove open, and then there you go. Alright, next thing to come off is this top plate, because there's all kinds of trash and gunk in there, and I've got some brake clean that I'm going to hit it with, so alrighty, let's get to it. Top plate off. That's actually a really nice looking top there. I could make a cover plate for that. You have the kill switch wire. And the kill switch wire is just held in with a little clip here. So you push back on that clip and pull down on the wire, and see if I can hold my phone. There you go. And you pull that out, and it's off. Yeah. Anyway, if I held that wrong, then you guys got a real nice close-up of my beard. And if I held it right, you got to see you just push the clip in and pull down on the wire, and it comes right out. And what this does is this grounds out the coil to shut the engine off. So you want to make sure you keep that wire. You don't want to remove it because you want to have a way to shut the engine off. And now we've got this heat shielding plate that we're going to take off. I'm actually going to knock the rust off of that and paint it, because with this on here, what this does is it goes up and attaches to the pull cover over there, and air comes out of the pull cover and it goes in here and it vents it around the vents on the block, cooling the engine. So you definitely want to make sure you put stuff like that back on, otherwise you're going to have overheating issues. And let's spin it around. Yeah, I know. I did that because I couldn't get to the exhaust bolts. But yeah, that coil right there, or that magneto, is going to have to be cleaned up. And looks like it's got a pretty decent exhaust port on it. Probably can open that up quite a bit. So let's pull the spark plug and see how it was running last time it ran. It wasn't even tight. I went to put a socket on it, and as soon as I touched it, it turned. So it wasn't even in there tight. And if they were having problems with starting it, it wasn't going to get compression with that thing loose like that. And she's carboned up pretty good, but the electrode's not burn up or anything like that. That could be bad gas that's caused that, or you know, something like that, or carburetor way out of adjustment, a dirty carburetor caused that. So we're not going to call that burnt oil just yet. Not yet. Look at the size of the intake port versus the exhaust. That exhaust port is huge compared to the intake. I mean, you see that? I can put my thumb over top of that, covered up real easy. I put my thumb on the exhaust. Look how much different that is in size. By the way, those exhaust bolts come out pretty easy after I went and hosed it down with some blaster chain and cable lube, let it set for a few minutes, and they come out pretty easy. Probably going to do the head bolts the same way. And it looks like that valve cover gasket was leaking. Alright, let's pull the valve cover off and have a look at that. Alright, well, it don't look like we've got any issues with the rockers or the valve springs, and I actually think I almost think a pair of Predator valve springs will fit that. So I could probably get a set of 12-pound or 18-pound springs, but those are probably about an 8-pound spring right now. And I'm definitely going to remove the governor. That is, if the cylinder looks good, I'll remove the governor, and then I've got a set of 18-pound springs at the house that I'll throw on this. I got a set of stock springs for a Predator. Hold on, let's check this out. Actually, you know what? They look like they're the same width. And yeah, they look like they're about the same spring, except for maybe the Predator springs are a little bit longer. But yeah, they look like they're the same spring, although actually the Briggs springs are a little bit more robust than the stock Predator, or they got more, takes more pressure to push them than the stock Predator springs. And I like the way these bounds adjust. You adjust the outer collet, and you use an Allen wrench to lock it down in the center. I like that. And it looks like this engine's had water in it at one time. Oh, I hope the cylinder's not gacked. Alright, let's go ahead and pull this head and have a look inside. All 4 head bolts are out. Now, I haven't pulled this head off yet, so this is going to be a surprise to me too. Ew, that's ugly. There's some tiny valves in there too. Yeah, I can see there's a little bit of milkiness to that oil. Is there even a head gasket on? Yeah, there's a head gasket. Well, the head gasket doesn't look like it was blown or anything like that. It's still got a good seat ring around it. So it didn't have a blown head gasket while they parked it. I'll set that one left and that one to the right. Now we'll turn the engine down. That's the problem. That's the problem. She was a smoker. She's got scars in the cylinder. Let me get a rag so we can see this better. But yeah, she's got scars in that cylinder, so it's going to have to be honed and a new set of rings. So, darn it. This one's not going on anytime real soon. There, now you can see down in that cylinder, you can see all the scarring. Yeah, she's going to have to be bored. Which I've got the stuff at the house to bore it out and everything like that, so no big deal. I reckon I'm going to look and see what a set of rings is going to cost. And see if they sell kits for it, because if they do, I'll just go bill it. I'm going to have to machine this back down smooth, and the head's going to have to be machined too. That's going to be fun with that little metal tab sticking through right there. No, those actually those alignment pins. I bet you those dowel pins right there will pull out. Yeah, let's find out if they'll pull out or not. Not coming out. Nope, they're not coming out. Yeah, I mean, I can really feel the inside of that cylinder. When you rub your finger in there, I mean, you feel it wavy like this all the way around. I mean, they've really burnt that cylinder up in this thing. She's in rough shape in there, but that's fixable. We'll punch it out a little bit more. I mean, we're gonna have to go out probably 35 thousandths, maybe even 40 thousandths to get that out. I'll probably go 40 over. Yeah, there's a bad ridge there too, but yeah, it's gonna have to go about 40 over to get that out. We can get it out. All right, now let's see what the internals look like. How cute it is. It's got a plastic cam. Can you believe that? It's got plastic cam lobes and a plastic cam timing gear, and then a couple of plastic gears. This in here is going to run off of the crank, and this is going to be the governor. So I'm going to remove both of these gears for the governor. Look at all that slop in there, and look at this. There is a stick. There is straight up a stick in that engine. How that got in that engine block? That had to, somebody must have stuck that through one of the oil fill holes, like some kid was goofing around and stuck that stick in an oil fill hole. That stick might have been in there 5 years, or somebody was checking their oil level with a stick and dropped it in there. That's weird. I just saw that down in there. Oh man, I'll tell you what, taking that side cover off was a pain in the butt, getting it through that bearing right here, because the end of that shaft was all rusted up, and I hit it with some of that chain lube again, and then I set the edge of a file up against it and just kept turning it until I got it spun down enough to where it'll come on off. Anyway, I've got a lot of spray cleaning to do to this poor engine. It's been badly neglected, and I'd like to bring it back to life. I want to see how long that plastic cam lasts. I think that'll be cool, and if all I've got in this thing is a carburetor that I could throw on something else if I wanted to, a spring for the pull cap and a rebuild on that, and a set of rings, that's going to be really cool, because I'm not going to have a whole lot of money in this engine. But we could wrap it out until she detonates and see how long it lasts. I think it'd be fun. Alright, anyway guys, I'm going to let y'all go for now. I'll catch you later. I'm just going to be hosing this thing out and hosing it off. And just rip that governor out, which, I mean, that's no big deal. You just cut the gear on each side of that little lever, and on each side of that little lever, then you spread it open and it just pops off. And then that right there comes off with a circlip. I could actually just pop that circlip off and take that gear right there off and just leave that there. It ain't going to hurt nothing. It's not in the way, and it's not going to be hooked to nothing. But I'm going to go ahead and pull that out anyway. But, wow, it's a cute little thing. I do have to apologize about something. When I first got this engine, I sent pictures to somebody else, and they swore it was like a 9.5 to 10 horsepower Briggs, and I really didn't pay it a whole lot of attention. I mean, I just yanked it off the go-kart, and I chunked it over in the corner of the shop for a couple of months, 3 or 4 months, however long it was, and literally just kind of ignored it, forgot about it, and tripped over it a couple times, and that's about it. But looking at this, and I finally found the model number. It was on the heat shroud plate, the one that went across here, that the exhaust went through when the head was on it. But it was completely rusted over, and I had to polish that with a piece of steel wool to get the model number, because normally they're on the pull cover, which is not on there. That's a that sticker right there is a emission sticker, or it's on a sticker on the side of the gas tank, which there's no sticker on that, or it is on the side of the valve cover with these overhead valve Briggs, and it was on the heat shield, which is unusual. But anyway, looking at it, I'd say 5.5, 6.5 horse, maybe. It's not that big of an engine. But anyway, Friday we're going to go down to my parts guy, and we're going to order a set of rings and a head gasket for it, and valve cover gasket, side cover gasket, and all that, so that we can get the cylinder board and get it back running. We probably won't be able to get it running. Maybe a couple of weeks from now we can, because it's going to take some time to order the parts in. But I want to see how long that plastic camshaft lasts. So we're going to put some heavy duty valve springs in it to give it a chance. And we're going to throw some RPMs to this thing when we get it done and see how it does. But I do apologize about thinking that this was like a 9.5, 10 horsepower engine. But like I said, that's what somebody else had told me about it. So that's what I believed, because I never really did pay that much attention to it. And this guy says he knows all of these stuff about Briggs and Stratton, but apparently he doesn't know as much as he thought he did. Oh well, we'll still get it going, and we'll still play around with it, but we'll see you guys later.